Hirokazu Koreeda's Nobody Knows is described as a fictional documentary, stemming from its basis on a real-life story and its unique combination of shots and acting that creates a story so realistic and naturalistic it almost does not appear to be a scripted film. Following four children who have been abandoned by their mother and three of whom have never been allowed to go outside before, their first foray into the outside world is full of excitement and joy. Starting with their lively run outside of the apartment they have been confined to, the camera serves as an observer, focusing in on their behaviors and emotions instead of detailed dialogue. The cheery background music and extreme brightness of the outside emphasizes this new world the children are finally able to experience, an expansive, bright environment incredibly different from the cramped space they've spent their whole lives in. Employing an extreme long shot, the entire scope of the children's actions is able to be seen and emphasizes the freedom and space the outside world brings the children. Through following the children and emphasizing symbols of the outdoors through the crosswalk and flowering trees, the juxtaposition between the children's experience in this new world, where they are granted the freedom to run, and their previous confinement is established. The children end up in the playground, a classic association with childhood that the children have been deprived of. The scene continues to emphasize action and emotion over dialogue, the framing carefully following the playing of the children and only using a closer focus when highlighting their sheer joy at this new experience. As Shigeru and Akira spin around, the extreme glare of the background creates a sense of extreme action, highlighting movement that was unable to be found while the children were in the apartment. Noticeably, no other people are present in this shot. Although the children have finally entered society, they are still alone, with nobody to care for them except each other, a stark reminder that truly nobody knows about them. However, this brief moment in which the children first experience a typical childhood must come to an end, and when they are back in the apartment, a darker reality immediately sets in. In the limited space of the apartment, the camera cannot pull back, and scenes are instead full of extreme close-up shots, often of the children's hands and feet. Although they are still engaging in typical activities, it is obvious that normalcy is deteriorating, with the children only having old ramen containers left to draw on. Akira is placed as the caretaker, helping Yuki with her words even though he himself has not had much schooling. On the patio, the four children are all shown in one shot, placing the patio as an in-between of the apartment with its extreme confines and the outside world, infinitely large and full of possibilities. As the children plant seeds, a symbol of hope and new life, it becomes evident that they no longer have electricity. While the younger children remain oblivious to this development, Akira is forced to deal with this physical deterioration, his hand desperately tugging at the light switch with no change, and the silent shot of him shaking the light bulb, the focus on the subtle changes in his expression as the implications of this reality set in. As the squalor of the apartment becomes increasingly intense, while the younger children maintain an air of innocence and continue to play, the stress of the situation on Akira becomes increasingly apparent. Though all four children are in the shot, Akira is the only one fully shown in the frame of the camera, again emphasizing the claustrophobia of the apartment coupled with Akira's role as the caretaker. Shigeru continues to care for the plants. Using water Akira must now get from the park for the plants instead of saving it to drink or even cleaning himself. His dirt-caked feet and overgrowing hair, features of the children's situation. The falling of the plant marks a symbolic transition that is the tipping point of Akira's growing frustration at having to be in charge, with all responsibilities placed on his young shoulders. As Yuki and Shigeru, in their naivety, likely do not realize the squalor of their conditions and attempt to maintain normalcy, the focus of the camera on Akira makes even his small movements noticeable, such as a prolonged blink and emphasized swallows. The toy piano, previously a representation of Kyoko's dreams, is now only unenthusiastically tapped at by Yuki. The sight of the dark, empty fridge is yet another symbol of the children's plight. Brightly colored magnets and drawings on the door, a harrowing callback to better times. As Akira begins to take out their mother's clothes, forcefully throwing them on the ground, Kyoko attempts to stop him. A frantic tug-of-war emphasized with hands and feet, a consistent motif that provides the viewer an intimate perspective. This fight is more than just clothes. It is reality versus fantasy. While Kyoko and the younger children may still have the hope that their mother will return, Akira, as well as viewers, know that she has already remarried and evidently completely moved on. By withholding this information from his siblings, Akira is forced to deal with the dual pressures of their deteriorating reality and try and provide his siblings with as much normalcy as he can. As Akira stoically observes his younger siblings and they look back at him for guidance, we see his eyes shift away, and ultimately he walks out, growing smaller and smaller in the frame as he can no longer handle their situation. Nobody Knows is powerful in its realism. Through camera shots that bring focus to the emotions of the children, it highlights their growing despair, unnoticed or cared for by society, and the inner turmoil of Akira, who has been forced into the role of caretaker, yet is still just a child himself.